All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started for today. I know that we've got a few more people who will be joining us. I think we're a little bit over capacity for this class, but that's okay. We can always take a little bit over 15 if we need to. So let those folks go ahead and join us along the way. But since you are all here, I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, so we'll get started right away. Again, my name is Dr. Powell. I apologize in advance that I'm battling either allergies or a cold. It's not COVID. I tested, but it's either allergies or a cold, and so I sound a little strange tonight. That's why my voice is a little off. But my name is Dr. Powell, and I will be your instructor for PPA 500. Welcome to the course, as well as welcome to the MPA program. I'm assuming for most folks, this is your first week of your first semester in the MPA program. So welcome to the program. I hope you enjoy your stay in the program. I'm no longer department chair. My term ended a year ago, and so I'm not involved in the review of applications or anything like that anymore. So I'll just have to get to know everyone throughout our next several weeks together in the course. This is PPA 500, so this is a required course, and this should be your first course in the MPA program. It really does establish kind of the building blocks for all the other courses that you'll be taking later on during your time with us. I have the syllabus up on the screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. I also opened up the Beachboard site a few weeks ago, and so I hope you've had a chance to go onto the Beachboard site, take a look at the syllabus and poke around a little bit, look at some of the resources up there on the site. Near the end of class tonight, I'll go ahead and show you the Beachboard site and kind of take you on a little tour of the site if you haven't seen it yet. We are using Beachboard for this course this semester. As you're probably aware, the university is in the process of transitioning from Beachboard to Canvas, and so instructors were given the choice this semester to use either Beachboard or Canvas. I chose to remain with Beachboard for this semester. I'll probably move to Canvas next semester, but all instructors are required to move to Canvas no later than summer 2023. So if you're not aware of that, just have that on your radar that you will be moving to Canvas in the next 1 to 2 semesters. That's going to be something that's being done university-wide. I think that the university is terminating its contract with Blackboard and initiated a new contract with Canvas, which is the direction that I think a lot of schools, including most Cal States, are moving toward as well. These Wednesday evening sessions that we'll be having, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, all these sessions will be recorded, and I will make the recordings available to you on our Beachboard site. I'll have the recordings all ready to go and upload it to the Beachboard site no later than tomorrow morning, probably by about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So if there's a Wednesday evening session you can't attend, you can always watch those recordings later on. If you do attend the Wednesday session, you still want to brush up on some of the information, those recordings will be available for you as well. Since we are recording these sessions, you are not required to have your camera on for privacy concerns, and so it's completely up to you whether or not you want to turn on your camera. You also, for privacy concerns, if you would like, you can always change your name when you log in, so you don't have your full name up on the Zoom page when we do the recording. So there's a couple of things you can do in case you're interested in that. But I will not require you to have cameras on. I completely leave that up to you and your choice. But all these sessions are going to be recorded, so just know that in advance. So let's spend a few minutes going through the syllabus, and I'll just talk you through what the course is all about, what we're trying to accomplish this semester in the course, what the course looks like, some of the assignments that you will be doing, and just make sure everyone's on the same page with that. Once we've covered the syllabus, then I'm going to go briefly through some elements of the program. I'm assuming most people attended the orientation that Dr. Matthews holds before every semester. She's our graduate advisor, as you know. She does a great job with the orientation, so I'm sure you got all the information already. But I think it's instructive here in our first night of 500 to go through that information again and afford you the opportunity to ask any questions that you have about the program. So we'll reserve some time for that. And also I want to introduce you to, if you haven't seen it yet, the mission of the program, along with some of our public service values that we have in the program as well. And it's a good way to kind of get us started tonight. We probably won't have a full session tonight. We won't get into any of our course-based substantive information until we get together again next Wednesday. So let's just run through the syllabus very quickly. I think you've seen most of it already. Again, my name is Dr. Powell. This is my 22nd year on faculty here in the Graduate Center for Public Policy Administration. 10 of those 22 years I spent as department chair, and I'm no longer department chair, but I'm still the program director for the Distance Learning MPA program. I've been the program director of the DL MPA program since 2004, I believe, so about 18 years. You know our meeting times, you know how to log in because you are here. You know that all of our Wednesday sessions are remote. They're all conducted via Zoom, so you have no requirement to make an appearance on campus for this course. You know what our meeting days are. We're going to meet every Wednesday at 4 o'clock through October 12th. Now, this is a hybrid type of course, which means we only meet for half of the semester. So we have 8 meetings, and then once we get through October 12th, the course ends, your final grades get submitted, and you can then move onward and upward with a second half hybrid course or however you want to spend the remainder of your fall semester. These hybrid courses, we created them several years ago, back I think 2006 maybe. So we've been offering them for a long time. The nice thing about a hybrid course is that you get the course done in half the time it would normally take you in a 15-week semester. One of the disadvantages for some folks is that it is an accelerated course. So we don't cut out any information in our hybrid courses. We cover all the same information you would have covered in a 15-week session. The only difference is everything's accelerated. So what we may have normally covered in 2 weeks, in this class, we will cover in only 1 week. So do be aware that it's an accelerated type of a modality. My contact information on the syllabus. For this course, my official office hours are Wednesdays from 2 to 4, so for the 2 hours before class. And you can contact me at my email, which is listed there, david.powell@csuob.edu. My voicemail, my phone number's on there as well. I have voicemail, but I'm on campus very rarely this semester. I'm going to be teaching from home for most of our sessions. So by far, the best way to contact me is through email. I have all my emails pushed to my phone, so I should be able to respond relatively quickly. If you don't get a response from me within 24 hours, then follow up by all means, because I usually try and return all my messages that quickly. So let me fix my screen for a second. Oops. All right, let me reshare. I think we lost our share there. Okay. Strangely, it's disappeared. Okay, let me try this again. Okay, let me do this. Okay, are you seeing the syllabus still? Let me know in text chat if you're still seeing the syllabus or not. Yes, okay, good. Okay, good deal. Just lost it on my end. Okay, so this course again is PPA 500, so it's your introductory course. It's a survey-based type of a course, and so we kind of take the iceberg approach, where we just kind of get the tip of the iceberg of a lot of these topics in this course to help them prepare you for all your future courses in the program. Now, we did make a change to the content of the 500 course not too long ago, a few years ago, because one of the things I realized when I was chair is that we had people entering the program from a variety of different academic backgrounds. And so, we always get a lot of folks from political science, but we're also getting people from engineering. We're getting people from the world of business, psychology, sociology. And so when we had people coming in from a lot of different disciplines, we realized that we didn't really have any place in the program where we are really covering American government and the role of public administration in American government. And we really didn't have a place where we were covering the idea of the discipline of public administration and what it really means to be a public servant and to serve in the public sector. And so we revised the 500 course to make it much more heavily focused on American government and the role of public administration within our system of governance. So this newly designed course, I say newly designed, it's been around for about 4 years now, really does emphasize American government and public administration as a discipline. And so the content, if you knew someone who went through the program maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the content of this 500 course is much different than it was when they went through in the past. I think what happens is that we really give more of a context for what public administration is and why it's important that we have a unique system of public administration in our unique system of American government. Our system of American government is very much a democratic republic. And so we have some aspects of a democracy, but we also have a lot of aspects of a Republican form of government as well. We're a democracy in that we as citizens can participate in our own governance, but we're also a republic in that we elect people to go to Washington or to go to Sacramento to make decisions for us. And so we have this hybrid democratic type of republic. And that means that we have a unique type of expectation for public administrators in our democratic republic system than you might see in some other nations around the world. So it's really important that we talk about how public administration is rooted in the essence of American government. And that's why we've redesigned the course to look the way in which it currently looks. I have a few course objectives listed on the syllabus for you, 4 of them specifically to comply with the requirements of the NPA program and its policies, to articulate the basic concepts of American government and political institutions, to apply the major theories and themes of public policy and administration, and to articulate the basic elements of the major subfields within public administration. Again, we are a hybrid course, so we only meet until October 12th. We meet on Wednesday evenings through Zoom, and then you'll also have a asynchronous requirement where you will be participating in discussion board. I'll show you the discussion board assignments in a moment, but I have 5 graded discussion board assignments. For those assignments, you will go in and read the prompt and then respond to the prompt with a concise essay. Usually about 2 paragraphs is usually enough to suffice to give me the response I'm looking for, whereby you take the information from the readings and the information you've learned from class and apply that information to then address the prompt that I have provided for you. Then in addition to writing that beach board essay, then you'll also respond to at least 2 of your classmates' postings. And that's going to be our asynchronous element that you can work on at your leisure during the week, that you don't have to be in front of your computer at any time other than 4 o'clock on Wednesday evenings. So that's kind of the way in which these hybrid courses work. We combine both the synchronous as well as the asynchronous components and save you the hassle of having to go to campus to actually attend the sessions. In terms of the course organization, as I said before, it is a survey-oriented class. The purpose is to provide you with a clear, concise introduction to the field of public administration. We organize the course around several topics, which include but are not limited to things such as the foundations of American government. You'll have the opportunity next week to read the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, and a few of the Federalist Papers, and we'll be discussing those next week. You also have the opportunity to learn about ethics and accountability in the public sector. We'll have an entire week devoted to accountability and ethics. The public policy process, what it is, how it works, who's involved in the policy process, institutions of American government, managing personnel, managing fiscal resources, pretty much everything that you need in terms of topics to be successful as a public administrator. Required textbooks, we have 2 of them. We have the Kettle textbook, Donald Kettle's book, Politics of the Administrative Process. That's kind of our main textbook for the course. And then we also have the Shafritz and Hyde Classics of Public Administration to afford you the opportunity to actually read some of the classical articles in public administration yourself. I think it's important that you have the opportunity to read those articles, so that you can form your own opinions rather than just listen to what my opinion and interpretation of those articles are. You can actually form your own opinions. These are articles in the classics text that we will cover that will come back to visit you in future courses as well. You know, some of these folks that you're going to read in the classics book, you're also going to cover in courses like PPA 660 organization theory, PPA 577 human resource management. These are people you're going to run into again in the program. So those are our two primary textbooks. You can use different editions if you would like. I know the classics textbook, there are various editions of the classics textbook. Just make sure whatever edition you get has the articles that we're going to be covering, and I've got all the articles then listed for you in our course outline. I don't teach from the textbooks, so it is important that you're here on Wednesdays or that you view the recording that I make, because I will present information, different information, and in a different way than Don Kettle provides in his textbook. I don't follow the textbook completely. The textbook is there as kind of put us all on the same playing level, so that we've all understand the information, we cover the same information. Then when you come into class on Wednesdays, I will present information above and beyond that, interpretations of that information in a little bit different manner. So it's important that you learn not only from the textbook, but you also learn from our Wednesday sessions. If I do my job correctly, you'll learn hopefully something from me, and then you'll also learn from each other, both in our Wednesday sessions as well as in your exchanges through our discussion board on Beachboard. What will you be doing and how will you be evaluated in this course? We have a few assignments. I try and keep the assignments to a minimum because I know that we have a limited amount of time together as a first half hybrid course. We only have 8 weeks together, and so I don't want to inundate you with readings and inundate you with assignments. So I try to keep those assignments to kind of a bare minimum. The first assignment that you'll be doing is what's called your initial skills self-assessment. And this was probably discussed in the orientation with Dr. Matthews. But as part of our assessment system for student learning outcomes, we created this idea of an initial skills self-assessment as an initial inventory of your skills as you enter the MPA program. So since everyone takes PPA 500 as their first course in the program, we thought this was a perfect venue for you to complete the initial skills self-assessment. The initial skills self-assessment I have listed at the end of the syllabus, and we'll take a look at that as we finish up our discussion of the syllabus, but it essentially consists of 3 parts. The first part is an ordinal ranking, and so there's a listing of all the different skills that we hope you'll acquire in the program, and you will rank your current understanding and knowledge of those different areas on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being you know very little to nothing about that area, to a 5, which means that you're very well versed in that skill, you use that skill frequently. So you'll just use that ordinal ranking of 1 to 5 for each one of those different skills in the program. That's a relatively quick thing for you to do because you're literally just picking numbers, and so you can get that done probably in just a few minutes. But it should be an honest reflection of where you currently are as you are entering the program. There's no right or wrong answer, and so if you have 1s for every single skill, that's fine. You're not going to get less credits and less points than if you had 5 for everyone. I want you to be honest in your assessment because you're going to take this assessment you're doing here in 500. Then when you get to the end of the program in PPA 697 directed research, you will redo it again in what's called the final skills self-assessment. And you'll do a re-ranking so that you can see how you feel that your skills have increased and been enhanced throughout your time in the program. So be as honest as you can in doing that ranking in part 1. Then in part 2, we ask you to give us a narrative about how much experience and what type of experience you have in the 5 core elements of the program, which track with our 5 major core courses. So public budgeting and finance, human resource management, organization theory and behavior, policy analysis, and research methods / program evaluation. So just a narrative of what experience you have in those areas. If you don't have any experience in those areas, again, that's absolutely fine. You can literally say, I do not have any experience in budgeting, and that's okay. It's just an honest assessment and inventory of where you are upon entering the program. And then the third part of the initial skills self-assessment, you'll just be telling us while you're in the program and what you hope to get out of the program, and what types of skills you want to develop, and where you hope the program will help you in terms of your career aspirations. The initial skills self-assessment is graded on a credit, no credit basis. So you turn it in and you'll get all the points. So there are no right or wrong answers. It's an honest assessment. Then you also have a draft advancement to candidacy form that you will be filling out. I'm sure at the orientation, Dr. Matthews probably talked to you about advancement to candidacy, that everyone, before they're able to graduate with the graduate degree, they must file an advancement to candidacy form. The advancement to candidacy form is basically like a course planner. And on that form, you will list all the courses that you plan on taking and the semester in which you plan on taking those courses. That gets approved at the departmental level by Dr. Matthews, our graduate advisor. Then will get signed off on by the college dean, and then becomes part of your plan of study. Now, what we're doing in this class is we're going to do a draft advancement form, which will afford you the opportunity to fill out the advancement form. Let me review that advancement form, provide you some feedback on your courses and your course sequencing, so that when you are done with this course and you move into your next semester and spring semester, you can then officially file the advancement to candidacy form with Dr. Matthews. So this form we're doing here is not the official one. This is not going to go anywhere past me. I'm just going to review it and then give you some feedback on your courses and your course sequencing. But what we have found is it's useful to do this here in 500 so that when you are able to advance, and you're not able to advance unless you've completed at least 6 units in the program, so no one will be able to advance this semester. You can't officially advance at the earliest until next semester. That when you are ready to advance, you already have all your courses planned out. You'll have feedback from me, and so you can then get feedback from Dr. Matthews when you actually go through the formal advancement process. Advancement to candidacy today is a little bit different than it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, all graduate students, when they advance to candidacy, they would have catalog rights conferred upon them, which means that everyone who came into a graduate program at Cal State Long Beach, they were all probationary students, and you were all considered to be probationary until you filed your advancement to candidacy. And then once you filed your advancement to candidacy, then all those protections in the catalog then got conferred upon you because you were then in regular standing. Doesn't work that way anymore. Now, as soon as you are admitted, unless you're conditional, as soon as you are a fully admitted student, you have regular standing. You don't have to go through a probationary process. So the advancement to candidacy form is a little different than it used to be, but it's still a really good way that you can plan out your courses and get feedback from both me as well as Dr. Matthews when you actually go and formally advance. Again, that advancement to candidacy form is kind of a credit, no credit, so there aren't any right or wrong answers. It's just a vehicle that allows me to give you some feedback in terms of your courses and the way in which you have sequenced those courses. Then you have 2 assessments. I don't like to call them examinations. I prefer to call them assessments. You have a midterm assessment and a final assessment. The assessments are scenario-based. So each assessment will consist of 5 scenarios and then 2 questions related to each scenario. The scenarios are supposed to represent a practical problem or situation in the public sector. And then you have the opportunity in answering the questions to then take the information you've learned in the class and then apply that information appropriately to address those scenarios. The scenarios are brief by design because I don't want to inundate you with a lot of superfluous information. So usually the scenarios are a paragraph or 2. And then again, you'll have 2 questions related to each one of those scenarios. They're not necessarily right or wrong answers. What you need to do is justify your answer on the assessments. And the reason why I use scenario-based assessments is that there are no panaceas in the public sector. There are no answers that are right 100% of the time. Instead of looking for the quote-unquote best answer, we usually look for the most appropriate answer. what answer, what theory, or what type of skill would apply most appropriately in this specific scenario. And that's what I'm looking for. So I'll give you an example. One scenario might be, I use this in my budgeting class. I think I've used it in the past in this class as well in the final. Here's a city that is struggling getting its budget done on time. Here are all the problems it's running into in trying to put together its city budget. Question one would be, what type of budget format do you think would be most appropriate to apply to this city to help solve its problems? And why do you think that's the most appropriate format? So you would select one of the formats we talked about in this class, like line item, performance, program, or zero base, and you would then advocate the use of that format and then tell me why that is the most appropriate format to use. You may select a performance-based budget to answer that question. Someone else in the class may select a program-based budget. You may both get full credit if you've done a good job of justifying to me why that is an appropriate answer. And again, I think that reflects what we do in the public sector a lot better than having a traditional examination that has right and wrong answers, because oftentimes there's not a right or wrong answer 100% of the time. So we've got that midterm assessment, you've got the final assessment. We don't complete those in class, and so I post those on our beach board site. I make them available at least 2 weeks before the due date, and you can then work on those at your leisure. You're able to use all the material from the class to answer those questions. And so, again, it doesn't feel a lot like an exam. It's much more of an assessment. Then finally, you have your beach board essays. There are 5 of those essays that are graded. And again, what you will do is I will post a prompt, and you will go in, provide an answer to that prompt, usually a couple of paragraphs, and then respond to at least 2 of your classmates. And you'll be 5 of those that are graded, which will then comprise your beach board essay component. Add it all up, you've got 5 points for the initial skill self-assessment, 5 for the draft advancement to candidacy form, 100 for each one of the assessments, 30 points for each of the beach board essays. And again, there are 5 of those for 150, all adds up to a grand total of 360 points for our semester together. Here at Long Beach, we don't use pluses or minuses. So much to my chagrin, I think students like that there is not a plus or minus system. I think faculty hate the lack of a plus or minus system. It is really kind of complicating for us at the graduate level because we end up with a lot of grade compression at the graduate level. So it would be nice to be able to distinguish between an A and an A minus and a B plus and a B. We don't have that here, and so it's all A, B, C, D, F. It's a 90, 80, 70, 60 type of split that you're probably very familiar with. I will tell you that I do have a flexibility rule that if you complete all the assignments on time and you give it what I like to call the old graduate school try, if you come within 1% of a higher grade, I will give you that boost. So if you come in at 89%, you'll get the A. You come in at 79%, you'll get the B. In our program, grades of A, B, and C all count for our courses, with the exception of one course, and that's PPA 697. In PPA 697, you must earn either an A or a B for that course to count. If you don't get an average grade of A or B in 697, then you would have to re-enroll in 2 more sections of 697 in the following semester. But for all the rest of our courses, grades of A, B, and C all count towards your graduate degree requirements. Now, obviously, you have to maintain a 3.0 cumulative GPA in order to remain in good academic standing. So it would mean you would have to, if you got a C in a class, you'd have to balance it with an A in another class to get you back up to that 3.0 cumulative GPA. Grades of D do not then count toward graduate credit. So if you get a grade of D or F, you would have to retake a course. That being said, here in 500, that would be an exceedingly rare occurrence. In 500, most people tend to congregate around the A and the B range. Not a whole lot of C's. You kind of have to go out of your way in this class to end up getting a C or something below that. Most grades around that A and B level. Got some grading rubrics for you for each of the assignments. I'll let you read through those on your own. I don't want to waste too much of our time going through that. Just as a reminder, though, on those beach board essays, you do have to respond to 2 of your classmates. And so the way in which I will divide up the 30 possible points on each essay, 20 points for your initial response, and then 5 points for each one of your responses to classmates. And that's how we get to our 30 points on the beach board essays. Any questions up to this point in time? Okay. Yeah, Rebecca, go ahead.
Thank you. I was looking at the beach board and it says 3 to 4 paragraphs for each response. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the expectations for the response to other classmates.
Yeah, for your initial response, I think you can certainly handle it well in 2 paragraphs. I'm not going to dock any points if you go beyond 2 paragraphs. So if you want to give me more, you can certainly give more. But I think most of them you can get through pretty easily in 2 paragraphs. In terms of responses to your classmates, 1 paragraph for each response, I think is certainly sufficient. So for those responses, what I would hope that you would do is, obviously, number one, they're professional and they're courteous, but the responses to classmates can maybe it's an issue that you dealt with in your professional life, and so you want to add some context and add some detail to their posts. That would be something you'd want to include in that response to a classmate. If you agree with them and your post, you had a very similar post to their post, you can say I agree, and this is the reason why I agree with your post. If there's something you think that they may have left out of their post that you think is important to point out, you can certainly do that as well, constructively in a professional and courteous manner, saying, something to the effect, I enjoyed your post. I did notice that perhaps the inclusion of this, whatever it is, could help, enhance the discussion, something along those lines. So hopefully your response to a classmate is not only supportive and professional, but it can also, help kind of push the discussion forward a little bit. So 1 paragraph for the responses to classmates. I think you can certainly handle your initial response in 2 paragraphs, but certainly feel free to go beyond that if you would like. Okay. Good question. Okay, let's take a look at our schedule and what we're going to talk about and when we are talking about these things. Obviously, for tonight, we're doing the syllabus, course introduction, introduction to the program, and a really quick discussion of the program's mission and public sector values. Your first real assignment, which is ungraded, is an introductory post on Beachboard. And so I have a form up there where you can just post a brief introduction, who you are, why you're here, what you do, what you hope to get out of the program, just so everyone can kind of learn who everyone else is early on in the class. So again, that's going to be ungraded, but I do ask that you go in there and post a really brief introduction of yourself. Then we get together next week, we'll get into our foundations of American democracy. So we'll talk Articles of Confederation, we'll talk Constitution, all those good things you learned in American government, separation of powers, federalism, American institutions. Your readings I would like for you to do is I provided a copy of the Articles of Confederation as well as a copy of the Constitution. So I would like for you to read through both of those documents. Next week, we'll go through the Articles of Confederation briefly and talk about some of their shortcomings as the reason why we ended up with the Constitution that we currently have. Then we'll also spend time next week going through the Constitution. So we'll go through all 7 articles of the Constitution. We'll go through all 27 amendments of the Constitution. I know it's not Constitution Day yet. It's not Constitution Day until September, but I do think it's important for us to have a good working familiarity with the Constitution because as public servants, we are held accountable for not violating individuals' constitutional rights. And in order to not violate someone's constitutional rights, obviously you must first know what those rights are. You must first know what the Constitution says. And we don't really have a lot of opportunity in our normal everyday lives to sit down and really read the Constitution and analyze the Constitution. So we're going to make sure to do that next week. You also have 3 Federalist Papers I would like for you to read. Federalist Papers numbers 10, 39, and 51. Federalist Paper number 10 talks about factions and how we control the effects of factions. Federalist Paper number 39 by Madison, again by Madison, talks about the Constitution itself and really breaks the Constitution down to try and determine is this Constitution a national document, or is it a more federal document that gives rights to state as opposed to the national government? And I think that Massey makes a really compelling argument in Federalist 39 and kind of thinks a lot like a social scientist in writing that Federalist paper. So I'd like you to read that one. And then 51, which talks about a Republican form of government because we are a democratic republic. So your readings, Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and those three Federalist papers. We'll cover all of that next week in class. And then your first Beach Board essay will then be due. Then our third week on September 7th, I hope I have all my dates correct. As I've gotten older, I've gotten worse at dates. So I hope that's the correct date. We'll do accountability and ethics. So we'll talk about the basis of accountability in the public sector. Some of what we like to call the ethical upgrade and the shock of the ethical upgrade that people sometimes experience when they move from the private into the public sector. We'll talk about the ASPA Code of Ethics, and ASPA, if you're not aware, is the American Society of Public Administration. So we have our own code of ethics as public administrators. If you are also a member of another profession, so if you're an engineer or if you're a sociologist or a social worker, then your profession has its own code of ethics as well. So we'll talk about some of the dilemma that people oftentimes face when the public administration code of ethics may come into conflict with their own professional code of ethics. And then when those codes of ethics may come into conflict with their own personal morals and their own personal ethical standards. We'll really focus on the importance of ethics in the public service and why the public service is so much different than working in the private sector. You've got chapter 1 in Don Kettle's book, and then you also have an article out of the classics text. Then we'll roll into your assignments being due of the initial skills self-assessment, as well as Beach Board essay number 2. Then we'll move into week 4 on September 14th. We'll do scope of government. We'll talk about the main differences between public and private organizations and ask the question, are those differences important? And do those differences matter? You will read chapter 2 in Kettle, and you'll also read one of my favorite articles by Graham Allison about public and private organizations, where he asks the fundamental question, are public and private organizations fundamentally alike in all unimportant respects? Basically asks the question, yes, there are similarities between public and private organizations, but so what? Do those similarities matter, or are the differences more important than some of the similarities? Your draft advancement to candidates form will then be due as well. Then we'll move into week 5, which is September 21st. We'll get into administrative structure and theory. We'll really dive into the idea of the discipline of public administration. And we'll ask the fundamental question, what is an academic discipline? And then more importantly, is public administration an academic discipline? Does it qualify to be an academic discipline? In some programs, public administration is a subfield of a larger discipline, such as political science. When I got my PhD, it was kind of a classical preparation type of program, where my PhD is in political science. One of my subfields was public administration, along with presidency and Congress and state and local government. And so it was just seen as being a subfield within the general field of political science. Some other programs, public administration is a separate discipline in and of itself. So we'll talk about those differences between the academic disciplines and ask the hard question of whether or not public administration is a discipline. And then if it is a discipline, the disciplines have theories. They develop theories, ways to understand the world. And theories in one discipline will differ from theories in another discipline. And so we'll look at some of the theories within public administration. And we'll look at those theories to compare the theories of public administration to theories in other academic disciplines. We know that in public administration, we borrow liberally from a lot of other disciplines. We borrow from the world of business. We borrow from sociology. We borrow from psychology. Sometimes we even borrow from physics. And there's one of my favorite theories is field theory, and that comes directly from the world of physics. So we know we borrow a lot from other disciplines, and so we'll learn which theories we borrowed, which theories are homegrown within the field of public administration, and talk about the development of theories within the field of public administration. Chapters 3 and 4 in Kettle, and then you see you've got some articles from the classics textbook. That first article there by Woodrow Wilson, The Study of Administration, that is really the beginning of public administration as a field of study. This is where he really said we need to study public administration differently. And this is kind of the birth, if you will, of the field of public administration. And so it's kind of that touchstone type of article that was written in public administration. So if anyone asks, what article, who was the godfather of public administration, it was Woodrow Wilson in his study of administration. Beach Board essay number 3, and then your midterm assessment will then be due. Then we'll work into week number 6, September 28th. We'll get into public policy. We'll talk about the public policy process, executive versus legislative driven policy processes. We'll talk about ways to analyze public policies. We'll talk about decision-making models and how decision-making models are utilized in coming up with public policies and evaluating and analyzing public policies. Again, we'll talk about some of the role of the executive branch in the policy process. And then we'll try and define what we mean by effectiveness in public administration. How do we know when a public policy is effective? How do we know when a public organization is effective? And I will offer to you 4 different models of effectiveness that we can use in determining just how effective policies and organizations in the public sector are. You see the chapters there from Kettle and then the John Kingdon article. If time permits that week, we will then transition into a discussion of civil service, and we'll talk about the reforms in public employment, the different eras of public employment, the role of unions in public employment. We will distinguish between civil service employment and at-will employment, the big difference between public and private sector employment. You'll see the chapters you have assigned from Kettle, and then Beach Board essay number 4 will be due. Then we'll move into week number 7, October 5th. We'll get into the management of resources, both personnel, people, as well as fiscal resources or money. We'll talk about how you manage human resources, how you manage budgets and fiscal resources. You'll see the readings that are assigned that week there. If time permits, we'll then talk a little bit about performance measurement in the public sector and how we do performance measurement. Then you have Beach Board essay number 5 due, and then, that date's wrong. You forget about that date there. And then we'll move into week 8, October 12th. That's where we'll do our course conclusion and wrap up, and that's then when your final exam will be due. I've listed all of your important dates for your assignments here for kind of one-stop shopping. So your initial skills self-assessment is due on September 6th. Your draft advancement candidacy form is due on September 20th. Midterm assessment will be due on September 27th. Final assessment due on October 12th. And whenever we give a due date, it's due by midnight on that day. So due by 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m. on that day. So you have that entire day to finish up those assignments. Our Zoom sessions are listed there for you on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. And then the due dates for your Beach Board essays are listed there as well. Your introductory posts, I hope that you'll have done by August 30th. And then those are the due dates for all of your other Beach Board essays and responses to classmates. Now, again, when you're doing your discussion board assignments, this will constitute the asynchronous part of our class time together. So you can work on that anytime you want throughout the week, as long as you get your initial and your 2 response posts done by the due date, by midnight on the due date, it will be considered to be on time. Discussion board posting number 1, your first graded discussion board post is, please respond to the following question. Your response should be well written and thoughtful. Here I say 3 to 4 paragraphs. What I have found over the past few years is that 2 paragraphs is usually sufficient to get the job done. But again, you can go beyond that if you would like. In Federalist number 10, Madison cautioned us against the negative effects of factions. Do you believe that America is more factionalized and divided than in the past? Please provide examples and support your position. What can be done to control the effects of factions more effectively? And then please respond to 2 classmates. So that'll look directly at Federalist number 10. Then discussion board number 2, please respond to the following. Your response should be well written. We all know that. Select 3 of the principles in the ASPA Code of Conduct, and we will cover that in class, that are most challenging for your position and your organization. Explain why those principles are challenging in your organization, and please respond to 2 classmates. That's our accountability and ethics discussion board. Discussion board number 3. Consider Allison's argument regarding the similarities and differences between public and private sector management. Using your organization as an example, highlight 2 ways in which your organization is similar to a private organization. Then highlight 2 ways in which your organization differs from a private organization. If you are currently working in a private organization, simply reverse the logic and compare to a public organization. If you work in a nonprofit, please compare to a private sector organization and then respond to 2 classmates. Discussion board number 4, scroll down there. For many years, there's been an ongoing debate regarding whether or not public administration is actually a discipline or merely a subfield within political science. Take a position on whether or not public administration is a discipline and explain why you feel it either is a discipline or is not a discipline, and then respond to 2 classmates. Then your final, 5th and final graded discussion board will be using the models of decision making we covered in class, and we'll cover really 4 main decision-making models. Select 1 public policy that you are familiar with and discuss which decision-making model was used in the development of that public policy. Are there any other decision-making models that would better characterize the policy process? And that's your policy-oriented discussion board number 5. There's a little foreshadowing there, so you kind of get an idea of what the types of prompts are if you haven't had a chance to look at the Beach Board site. Our policy on late assignments, all assignments are due on the due dates listed in the syllabus. Any assignment that is late will have a 10% penalty for every 24 hours that it is late. I do realize that this isn't your only responsibility in life, and that many of you are working full-time jobs and have family obligations as well. So life can certainly intervene and intervene relatively quickly. If life intervenes and it's going to preclude you from getting your assignment submitted on time, I just ask you reach out to me in advance, send me an email, tell me what's going on, and we can usually come up with an extension to help you avoid that late penalty. Way in which you'll be delivering your assignments, everything is going to be coming in electronic format through Beachboard. And so I have drop boxes set up for the initial skills self-assessment, for the draft advancement to candidacy, for the midterm assessment, and for the final assessment. All those will be turned in through the relevant Dropbox on the Beachboard site. All of your Beachboard postings will be done in the discussion board forum. I ask that you actually copy and paste your response directly into the discussion board forum rather than posting a link, because it's much more likely your colleagues will read your post if it's right there, as opposed to if they have to click on a link to go and find it. So try and copy and paste directly into the discussion board form for your discussion board essays. Policy on withdrawals, this is an important one. If for some reason you are not able to remain in the class, please do go through the normal withdrawal process. If you don't go through the normal withdrawal process, we get to the end of the semester and your name is on the roster. If I don't have any assignments to grade you on, the grade I would have to give is a WU, which stands for unauthorized withdrawal. And whatever you do in the program, you want to try and keep WUs off of your transcript, because once they go onto your transcript, they're very hard to come off. And WUs count as Fs in the GPA calculation process. So the rule of thumb is basically, if you need to drop the class, go through the normal withdrawal process. Don't just stop showing up and stop turning in assignments. Policy on incompletes, I really don't like to do incompletes, because what I have found in the past is that oftentimes those incompletes end up flipping into Fs. And an incomplete is good for 1 year. But again, life intervenes and folks get busy with other things. And despite reminders, they still don't get the work turned in. And then they end up with an F in the class after a year. So Incompletes are really there just for extraordinary extenuating circumstances. And so it really should be something very extraordinary before you contact me for an incomplete. Students with disabilities, if you have a documented disability, please reach out to BMAC and then they will contact me for accommodations, and we will always make reasonable accommodations. Attendance policy, I do not take roll in our weekly sessions. I leave that up to you. I know that you are professionals, and so I leave it to you to make that decision whether or not you are here in our Zoom sessions. But again, I do strongly encourage it, because if you're not here, you can't participate. Just, watching the recording doesn't afford you the opportunity to participate. You know what the technological requirements are, and everyone is here in the session, so you successfully navigated that. Changes to the syllabus. I'm going to make very few changes to the syllabus, if any at all. Really, the only changes we ever make to the syllabus is if we are running behind and we're not able to get to a topic in a given week, we may have to push that topic to the next week. And those are the types of changes that we need to make when we need to make them. Otherwise, I don't anticipate many major changes to the syllabus. The rest here are all the required syllabus statements. We have an academic senate policy here at Long Beach that requires certain statements in every syllabus. And so those are those statements. I'll let you read through those on your own. I do use Turnitin for assignments, and that's really not a huge issue for us in this class because of the nature of the assignments. You're not doing a whole lot of research for the papers, or for the assignments you're doing. You don't really have any traditional research paper or anything like that. So plagiarism is very rarely any type of issue in 500, but I still run everything through Turnitin and get that originality report because I do it in all of my classes. And all the rest you can read through on your own. So you get to the end of the syllabus here, you have your instructions for the pre-instructional assignment. So here, I'm sorry, for the initial skill self-assessment assignment. So for the initial skill self-assessment, I've already kind of talked you through this before, but this is part of our assessment system that I put in place way back in 2007. We developed an assessment system because we are a NASPA accredited program. We have national accreditation. This is our site visit year. So we just finished up our self-study and submitted that literally, I think Dr. Butt submitted it last week. And we are now gearing up for a site visit. And so NASPA will send out a site visit team sometime in January or February. And so you might get an invitation to participate in a focus group with our site visitors. But as a NASPA accredited program, we need to have a rigorous system of assessing student learning outcomes so that we can demonstrate to NASPA that our students, when they graduate from the program, have all 5 universal required competencies required by NASPA. So they need to be able to, all students need to be able to have the skills to lead and manage in the public interest. All students need to have the skills to contribute to and participate in the policymaking process. All students have to have the skills to be able to analyze and synthesize and make decisions and solve problems. All students need to have the ability to articulate a public service perspective. And 5th, all students need to have the ability to interact and communicate productively with workforce and citizenry. And so those are 5 universal competencies that every student that graduates from every NASPA accredited program must have. So what we have to do is we need to assess how well we are delivering those 5 universal competencies. And that's all done within our assessment program that we developed back in 2007. So one element of that assessment program is the completion of this initial skills self-assessment upon your entry into the MPA program. So since 500 is your first class, this is the perfect venue for you to do that initial skills self-assessment. Now, as I mentioned before, this is an honest assessment of where you currently are in terms of your skills. So there are no right or wrong answers. It's done on a credit, no credit basis. Part 1, as you can see here, we have several skill areas: budgeting, decision-making, ethics, oral communications, knowledge of organization behavior, human resource management, policy analysis, problem solving, research and statistics, teamwork, written communications. For each one of these skill areas, you will indicate how much you already know about that area. 1 indicates you know nothing about that area. 5 indicates a great deal about that area. So it's just literally an ordinal ranking. Then in part 2, we break it down to our 5 main core areas of budgeting, HR, organization theory, policy analysis, and research methods. For each one of these areas, we ask that you discuss your experience and or skills in each of those content areas. Again, if you don't feel you have any experience in one of those areas, for instance, you haven't done anything in public budgeting, you can just simply tell us that and just say, I don't have experience in this area. Then in part 3, scroll down, it will scroll. In part 3, we ask you to basically tell us what you hope to get out of the MPA program. So please discuss your reasons for pursuing the MPA degree and what specific skills you hope to acquire in the MPA program. Now, again, as I said, when you get to 697, you're going to do the final skills self-assessment, which is a redo of this initial skills self-assessment only as you are leaving the program. So when you do your final skills self-assessment, instead of part 3 being what skills you hope to acquire, part 3 of the final skills self-assessment will be, what skills did you acquire and what parts of the program benefited you the most for your career. So that's our initial skills self-assessment. Again, credit, no right or wrong answers, just a simple, honest assessment of where you are with your skills upon entering the MPA program. And that is the syllabus. So any questions at all on the syllabus, the course requirements, anything at all? And again, you can use text chat, you can use the microphone, completely up to you, but any questions at all? Okay. If not, let me stop that share. And let me go ahead and share with you another document. Now, one of the other things you're going to do is you're going to be doing that draft advancement to candidacy form. I have provided the advancement to candidacy forms for you on our Beachboard site, and I'll take you on a little tour of the Beachboard site in just a second. But this is what the advancement to candidacy form looks like. So when you do your draft advancement to candidacy form, this is what you're going to be filling out. So just your basic, name, ID, email, address, all that good stuff. In midterm is going to be, fall of 2022. Advancement term is when you think you're actually going to officially advance to candidacy. If you are completing 6 units this semester and you successfully complete those 6 units with a GPA of 3.0 or above, then you are eligible to advance in spring of 2023. So spring 2023 would be your advancement term. Then there are requirements for advancing to candidacy. You'll see one requirement is what's called GWAR, which is not the metal band, but it is the graduation writing assessment requirement. That has been suspended by the university. I think it's system-wide that's been suspended. So that's something you no longer have to worry about. So you can just check MET on there and you will be fine because it's now suspended. They suspended it as a part of the COVID response, and they haven't reinstituted it yet. So you're coming in at a good time where you've automatically met your GWAR requirement. So you can just click, just check MET there. Second requirement is you have to have a minimum GPA of 3.0 and graduate work completed or transferred in. Obviously, for this draft form, you don't have a GPA yet unless you're transferring in coursework. So you can leave that blank at this point in time. Number 3, successful completion with a grade of B or better of 6 units in the MPA program. Obviously, you haven't done that yet, so you can leave that blank for this draft form. And completion of the orientation requirement. Hopefully, you were able to attend the orientation hosted by Dr. Matthews. If so, you can just put the date in there. If for some reason you weren't able to attend that orientation, then you can use tonight basically as your date, because we are going to talk about some of those orientation related elements of the program. So you can just put tonight's date in there if you would like. These are your required courses, as you all know: 500, 555, 577, 660, 670, 696, and then 2 sections of 697. Everyone has to take those. And so what you'll want to do on the draft form is list the semester in which you plan on taking each one of those courses, the semester and the year. Obviously, you're not going to have a grade for any of those, so just leave that blank. But I do want to see the semester and the year to see your sequencing of when you plan on taking the core courses. One very important thing to remember is all core courses must be completed before you'll be allowed to register in 697 directed research. So make sure that on your semester and year, all of these before 697 predate the semester and year that you plan on doing 697. So just make sure that all these dates are before the dates here for 697. Then you'll list 5 courses that you plan to take as electives. Again, this is a draft form. This can change, so don't stress too much about it. But you can take a look at the course catalog and see what courses we offer in our program. If you're interested in taking courses in another program, you can go ahead and list those courses on here. When the time comes to take those courses, you'll have to talk to Dr. Matthews and get her permission in order to take those courses outside the department. But you can list any 5 elective courses in here and the semester and year in which you plan on taking those courses. Then you have your internship section. As you know from orientation, everyone is required to complete an internship unless you have completed 1 year of full-time administrative experience. If you have more than 1 year of full-time administrative experience, you can waive the internship requirement. And the vast majority of students end up waiving the internship requirement. So if you are employed on a full-time basis or have been employed on a full-time basis, you can waive the internship and just tell us where you are employed at. If you don't have that 1 year of experience, then you'll have to do PPA 585 internship as one of your requirements for the program. If you do need to do the internship, do remember that the internship does not count towards your 39 units. So it's in addition to those 39 units for the MPA. So if you have to do the internship, you have to do 42 units instead of the normal 39. That's a requirement of our accrediting body. We are not allowed to include internship within our normal degree requirements. So that's the advancement to candidacy form that the vast majority of you will be filling out as your draft advancement. If you were admitted into the option in urban affairs or the option in public works, there are different advancement to candidacy forms for those options. I provided those for you on our Beach Board site as well. The vast majority of people come into the general MPA program, so this is the form that the vast majority of folks will be using. So that's the form you'll use for your draft advancement to candidacy form requirements. Any questions about that? Okay. If not, then let's go ahead and let me share the presentation I have for the introduction to the program. And again, I know that everyone, if not everyone, attended the orientation session with Dr. Matthews. I haven't been to one of those sessions in a while, so I don't know how she's doing them now, but I do think it's important that since we're all together here tonight, we go through some of this information again and make sure everyone's very clear on all the requirements for the program. So let me just run through these slides very quickly and just refresh you on some of the information you got from the orientation session, and then be able to open it up for questions and concerns that you may have that you'd like to cover in terms of the program itself and some of the program requirements. So, as I mentioned before, and I'm sure you heard in the orientation, we are a NASPA accredited program. Our accreditation runs through 2023. It's a 7-year accreditation. So we'll have our site visit in January or February of 2023. We'll then end up getting reaccredited sometime around June or July of 2023. And then that will be a 7-year accreditation that will be good through the year 2030. NASPA accreditation is a rigorous process. I served on the commission that does the accreditation several years ago, and I've also served as a site visit chair for the past 12 years, I think, traveling around, going to different programs and reviewing them for accreditation. So now it's a difficult process. It's a very time-consuming process as well. So it's something we go through every 7 years. We have been continuously accredited by NASPA since the first time we went for accreditation in 1988. So we're one of the oldest accredited programs in the country. And we always have successful reaccreditations every 7 years. And I don't see why this accreditation cycle would be any different. We have 7 full-time nucleus faculty members in the Graduate Center for Public Policy Administration. Dr. Butts is our current department chair, and Dr. Matthews is our current graduate advisor. I am currently the distance learning NPA program director. And we also have Dr. Frank Baber. Dr. Baber teaches primarily organization theory. He has now entered the faculty early retirement program, which means he teaches half-time in the fall and spring semesters. So he's only teaching 2 courses per semester. We also have Dr. Bill Moore, who also entered the faculty early retirement program this fall. He chose the option where he only teaches in the spring. So the only time you would ever encounter Dr. Moore is in a spring course. He teaches primarily our budgeting and finance courses. Dr. Ed Martin has been with the program for about 25 or 26 years now. He teaches primarily human resource management, urban affairs, race and inequality. And then our newest faculty member, Dr. Tina Zhao, she joined us a couple of years ago. She teaches primarily policy analysis. She does some nonprofit work as well. And so she is our newest faculty member. So we have 7 full-time nucleus faculty members. We have approximately about 20 adjunct faculty members. Primarily, they run nonprofit organizations. We have some who are city managers. We have some who are finance directors who do a really nice job of teaching all of our other courses as well. You know about the program requirements, you know our core courses, you know we've already gone through those on the advancement form. You know that you have a 6-unit requirement for directed research. That's your capstone or culminating activity course. So you'll be doing 2 3-unit sections of that. You have to do 5 electives. Those electives are primarily from within our department, but if you want to take something outside the department, you would need to get Dr. Matthews' approval. Those electives, as you saw on the advancement form, need to be listed on the advancement form. The reason why you need to get Dr. Matthews' approval to take something outside the department, there are 2 reasons. One reason is that NASPA requires that we as a faculty control the course delivery for all students in our program, which means that we need to control the quality of faculty who are teaching courses offered in other departments and the content of those courses. And so the graduate advisor needs to approve any courses from outside the department. Another reason why Dr. Matthews needs to approve those courses is because there are some programs on campus that are impacted, which means that they are only open for enrollment to students within their own department, within their own major. So there are some programs where you're not going to be able to take courses in their programs just because they're impacted. Dr. Matthews knows which programs those are, which courses those are, and she can then guide you appropriately. If you have coursework that you are transferring in, you are able to transfer it up to 30%, which for our purposes equates to 9 credit hours from another program, another MPA program into this MPA program. It used to be 6, it's been increased now to 9. So that's the equivalent of 3 3-unit courses. If you have courses that you would like to transfer in, obviously list those on your draft advancement form, and then you'll need to talk to Dr. Matthews when it comes time to actually formally advance into candidacy, and she can talk you through that process. You know about advancement to candidacy. You know that you have to be in good standing with the 3.0 GPA. You can only advance to candidacy after you've successfully completed 6 units in the program. You also must advance to candidacy at least 1 semester before your graduation semester. So technically, the university does not allow you to advance and graduate in the same semester. So that's why it's a good advice to try and advance as early in the program as you possibly can. So if you have 6 units done after this semester, I advise that you meet with Dr. Matthews and advance to candidacy in spring 2023. You also must be enrolled in the semester in which you advance. So if you want to advance in the summer, but you're not enrolled in courses in the summer, the university will not allow you to advance. You have to be enrolled in courses in the semester that you want to advance. Once you advance to candidacy and you get closer to your graduation date, you then also have to petition to graduate. You can do that directly through the Enrollment Services website. You don't need departmental approval to do this. When you petition to graduate, Enrollment Services will then do a grad check to make sure that you've taken all the courses and completed all the courses listed on your advancement to candidacy form. If you want to petition to graduate, well, you have to petition to graduate, but if you want to graduate, you have to petition by October 15th if you're graduating in the summer or the spring, and you have to petition by March 1st to graduate in the fall or in the winter. If you miss those dates for petitioning to graduate, there's always a late petition process. They will charge you, I think it's $15, but they usually, I've not seen them yet deny a late petition to graduate. But it is good to try and hit those dates so that you don't have to pay that extra $15. You know that your culinary experience is directed research. Directed research, as you probably know, consists of 5 case studies, 1 case study from each of our main core content areas. So a budgeting case, a human resource case, an organization theory case, a policy analysis case, and a research methods case. So you complete those 5 cases, do a final skills self-assessment, and turn in your student learning, your student portfolio, and that's how you then graduate from the program. In 697, you're doing those 5 cases. Your grade in 697, both sections of 697 will be the average grade that you earned on those 5 cases. So we literally just take your percentages you earn on those cases, and we take the average, and that then becomes your grade for 697. 697, you have to get an average grade of at least A or B for 697 to count. Otherwise, you'd have to retake 697. That happens on occasion. It's exceedingly rare, but it does happen once every 2 or 3 years. So do make sure to get an A or B average grade in 697. Now, when you apply to the program, the vast majority of people apply to the general MPA, so that's what most people are in. We may have a handful of people who apply to the option in urban affairs, maybe a handful who applied in the option of public works. If you're in either one of those options, again, you have a different advancement form that you'll be filling out, and some small differences in terms of your required courses. If you're in the option in urban affairs, 610 becomes a required course, the seminar in urban affairs. If you're in public works, then 554, the public works course, becomes a required course for you. So you have 1 additional required course and 1 less elective course. Regardless of what program you're in, whether you're in the general MPA, the option in urban affairs, or the option in public works, we also offer certificates that you can add on to your degree program, and anyone can do these. We have 3 active certificates right now: the employee-employer relations, public sector financial management, and public management analysis. By far, the most popular is employee-employer relations. I think at any given time, we have about 10 or 12 people in employee-employer relations certificate. And I provide the links on here that you can go and take a look at the requirements for each one of those certificates. We used to have certificates in urban executive management and transportation policy, but those were discontinued several years ago, so we only have the 3 certificates remaining. So in 697, you complete your 5 case studies, you complete the final skills self-assessment, and then you'll be submitting your student learning portfolio, or your SLP. The purpose of the SLP is to be kind of a record of your accomplishments in the program, what you've done, what types of work you have completed in the program. It's kind of a professional journal. But for us, it's really an assessment tool, in that we can see the type of work that you have completed throughout your time in the program. And it's also very good for promotion and employment, because you can have this portfolio as evidence of the types of skills that you've acquired within the program. So, for instance, you're going to get a job as a budget analyst, and you're asking the interview, can you analyze the budget? And you say, yes. Here's evidence of me analyzing the budget. And then you produce the pre and post instructional assignment that you did in your PPA 555 public budgeting and finance course. So it's really visual proof that you have acquired these skills and that you can actually do these types of things that may be required in a new job or required of a promotion in your current organization. We've been using the student learning portfolio for many years now. It replaced our old comprehensive examination requirement. We got rid of that way back, I think, in 2002, if I'm not mistaken. So the portfolio has served everyone pretty well over the past 20 or so years. The portfolio consists of 3 different sections. In part 1 of the portfolio, you'll include the initial skill self-assessment that you are completing here in this 500 class, and then the final skill self-assessment that you will be completing in 697. So once you've got your 5 case studies done in 697, you then do the final skill self-assessment. The initial skills and the final skill self-assessments go into part 1 of your student learning portfolio. So you'll start building your portfolio from this course. As soon as you've turned in your initial skill self-assessment, you've started building your student learning portfolio. Part 2 of the portfolio consists of the pre and the post-instructional assignments that you complete in your core classes. So you'll complete a pre and post-instructional assignment in all of your core classes with the exception of PPA 500 and PPA 697. All your other core classes, budgeting, HR, org theory, policy, and research methods, will have a pre and a post-instructional assignment. Your instructor will show you in the syllabus which assignments they are considering to be pre and post-instructional assignments. There are no approval forms anymore. We used to have approval forms when students had to get the signature of instructors. We no longer do that. You can put the pre and post-instructional assignments as you submitted them directly into part 2 of your student learning portfolio. And then part 3 of your portfolio consists of the 5 cases that you complete in PPA 697 directed research. And that's it. And that's the student learning portfolio, just those 3 different sections. So you'll be building those sections out as you complete courses in the program so that when you are finally done with 697, you will have everything that you need to then compile your student learning portfolio. The student learning portfolio is submitted electronically, and we submit that through OneDrive. And there is a video that I made back when I was chair that's provided on the PPA 697 site, as well as on the PPA Organization Beach website that walks you through how to submit your portfolio through OneDrive. But you submit it through OneDrive to your 697 instructor. Again, no approval forms are required. Your instructor will approve your portfolio, and once that portfolio is approved, then we alert enrollment services that you have completed what they consider to be your graduate project. So when you look at your unofficial transcript, you'll see that at the once you have done this, at the end of your transcript, there'll be a notation that says graduate project completed. That's your student learning portfolio. So when you submit it and it gets approved by your 697 advisor, we then send the notice over to enrollment services. Enrollment services will then clear you as having completed your graduate project, and you'll then be ready to graduate with your MPA degree. There are deadlines, so your student learning portfolio must be turned in by December 1st if you're graduating in fall semester, or by May 1st if you're graduating in a spring semester. I know that's down the road for you quite a ways. You're just starting the program, but again, you're going to start building that portfolio with this initial skill self-assessment that you're completing here in PPA 500. And then finally, some important policies of the Graduate Center as well as the university, and I'm sure Dr. Matthews covered some of these with you. Again, you have to advance a candidacy at least 1 semester before you plan on graduating. So it is good to advance candidacy early on in your academic career. As I said before, if you're completing 6 units this semester, you can advance as early as spring. There's a 7-year rule at the university. Any courses in the 7-year rule at the university is that if courses that are older than 7 years must be revalidated. But every department has its own revalidation policy. Our revalidation policy here in public administration is a pretty permissive one. Any courses that are less than 10 years old will be revalidated by the department. So, say for instance, you have to break enrollment and wife intervenes and you have 10 years between when you completed a course and then you come back and you want to graduate. As long as that course is less than 10 years old, we will revalidate that course and you don't have to retake it. Any course that's older than 10 years old must then be retaken. So it's a 10-year cutoff for us here in the Graduate Center. You must maintain continuous enrollment from when you are admitted to the program until you graduate. That's true for every fall and spring semester. You must be enrolled every fall and spring semester from when you are admitted until when you graduate. Summer and winter do not count. Those are additional semesters. You don't have to take classes in those semesters. Those semesters are run by the College of, what are they called, Professional and Continuing Education now, so it's a different type of structure. But you have to be enrolled every fall and spring semester until you graduate. If you break enrollment, if there's a fall or spring semester when you are not enrolled in courses, the university will then require you to reapply to the university and reapply to the department before you can restart your graduate degree. So if for some reason you do have to break enrollment, there's a fall or spring semester where you cannot enroll in classes, make sure you fill out the education leave form. The education leave form is available on the Enrollment Services website. They will basically give you an education leave with no questions asked that will stop the clock from ticking, will give you a semester off, and allow you to then return the following semester without having broken enrollment. So it's a really important one. Do not break enrollment unless you have filled out an education leave form. Good academic standing is defined as a cumulative GPA of 3.0. If you fall below a cumulative GPA of 3.0, then you're placed on academic probation by the university, and you'll then have 2 semesters to remedy that deficiency. If that deficiency is not remedied, then the university will automatically academically disqualify you, which precludes you from them taking future courses at the university. So just make sure to keep that GPA at 3.0 or above. We do have a grade appeals process here in the Graduate Center. The grade appeals process is there if you feel an instructor has assigned a grade in an arbitrary, prejudicial, or capricious manner. The burden of proof for grade appeals is on the student as opposed to the instructor. The assumption in the grade appeals process is that the grade is accurate and correct. And so through the process to be successful, the student has to show that the grade was actually arbitrary, capricious, or prejudicial. But there is a whole grade appeal process that runs through our department chair, Dr. Butts. Hopefully you won't ever have to use it, but if you do need to avail yourself of the grade appeals process, you would want to first contact Dr. Butts and he can walk you through the process. There's an informal part of the process and then a formal part. So it's a kind of a 2-step type of deal. Again, it's important that all your core courses are completed before you'll be allowed to enroll in 697. So keep that in mind. And that's it. So that's a really quick overview of the program and some of the important policies and requirements of the program, just kind of as a reiteration of what you got in your orientation session. Do you have any questions, program related questions, or anything that you would like to ask at this point? Okay, Elias, go ahead.
Yeah, for 697, it says that we must complete all courses. So does that imply that we cannot take, courses in the same semester as 697?
You cannot take any core courses in the same semester as 697. You can take elective courses at the same time you're doing 697, but all core courses must be completed before 697. And the idea there is, obviously you're doing case studies from each of those core courses. And so you'd want to have those core courses completed before you start 697. So yes, all core courses must be completed before the beginning of the semester where you're taking 697.
Great, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Programmatic related questions? You got me for an entire semester, so you can ask questions along the way. You don't have to ask them all tonight, but as questions pop up, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. Again, Dr. Matthews is our graduate advisor now. She's in her 2nd year as graduate advisor, so she's up to date on all new policies of the university and all those good things. So you can also ask programmatic related questions of Dr. Matthews as well. Dr. Butts is our department chair, is also available to answer programmatic questions. I know when I was department chair, I answered a lot of programmatic questions. So The department chair and the grad advisor kind of split those duties. So you can ask any of the three of us, Dr. Butts, Dr. Matthews, or myself. Then let me, usually what we'll do in our classes, we'll usually split the class session up, that we'll have a first half, we'll take a break, and then we'll have a second half. Tonight, since we're not covering any substantive information, we kind of skipped through our break. But one more thing I would like to cover with you tonight, and then I'll let you all go and give you the rest of your evening back. And that is in terms of the mission of the program. So I think maybe if I open this up, and maybe we'll get there on this. Okay. Okay, do you see mission and values? Hopefully that's showing up there on your screen. I tried to take a shortcut to get that up there. All right, perfect. Shortcut worked. Just really briefly, I don't know if Dr. Matthews took you through this at the orientation, but as a NASPA accredited program, it's very important that from day one of the program, everyone has a familiarity with the mission of the program, what we are all trying to achieve together as faculty, staff, and students. And as part of our reaccreditation process last spring, Dr. Butts held a series of focus groups with students as well as with alums and our advisory board and local employers to make some changes to our mission statement. And so the result of that process is the following mission statement. The mission of the Master's Degree of Public Administration program at the Graduate Center of Public Policy Administration is to graduate a diverse, ethically, and equity-minded student population with the professional competencies and analytical tools necessary for leadership, policy, and management roles in public service, nonprofit, and community-based organizations. Through the promotion of excellence in professional public service, research, and education, graduates will advance the public good and make a positive impact at all levels of governance and management. So some of the important changes there is we included equity-minded student population. That's a new inclusion into the mission statement. Advancing the public good is another new inclusion into the mission statement as well. And we also made sure to include public service, nonprofit, and community-based organizations, because not everyone from the program is currently working or will go into the public sector. A lot of folks are working in nonprofit organizations, working in volunteer types of organizations. So we want the mission to be as broad as possible to try and involve and include everyone. So this mission, again, is something that is the culmination of a lot of work through spring semester with all the stakeholders of the program. This mission then is directly related to our values, the public service values that every NASPA accredited program must articulate. Our public service values, as we determined them last spring, professional competence. Obviously, there are some skills that you will acquire in each of your core as well as elective courses. We need to make sure that you are acquiring those skills that you need to acquire or you're supposed to acquire. The promotion of the public interest, again, that's one of the reasons why in this class we again and again will go back to the idea of public service and how public service is different than working in the private sector because we are promoting the public interest in public service. The importance of diversity and inclusion. We are very fortunate in our program to have one of the most diverse student bodies in the entire country. We are working toward having a much more diverse faculty. We've made 2 diversity hires in the past 5 years, and we're planning on making more in the future as soon as the college gives us the money to do so. Diversity is one of the major values of our program. Inclusion is also important for us. And every year we do a student survey. And so at the end of the year, you'll get a student survey. And one of the questions on the student survey asks about a sense of belonging. And, if you feel that you belong in the program, do you feel included in the program? And I know that a lot of our strategic priorities over the next year will involve trying to enhance that inclusion and to have events on campus and off campus to help everyone feel that they belong in the program and have been included in the program. Ethical behavior, that's why we spend an entire week in this class talking about ethics and accountability. Ethics will be intertwined throughout all of your core courses. In the past, NASPA gave programs a choice. They could have a standalone required course in ethics, or they could incorporate ethics in all of their core courses. We have chosen the latter option where we incorporate it in all of our courses. An emphasis on social justice. This is obviously part of the new public administration movement of George Frederickson and others. This is a very important value in public administration and something that we value as a program as well. And an emphasis placed upon critical and analytical thinking. That's why you have scenario-based assessment in this class. That's why we don't do multiple choice tests or things like that. We really engage in critical thinking because there is no panacea, there is no 100% right answer in every single situation. I always tell my classes in the first night of class, I have a favorite answer and I have a favorite question. My favorite answer is, it depends. And so it depends. What is the appropriate skill or theory to apply? It depends upon the context of the situation, depends upon the organization, depends upon the individuals involved, depends upon the environment, it depends upon the stakeholders. It really does depend. That's why you have scenario-based exams. That's why I grade your answers, evaluate them based upon your ability to justify your answer as an appropriate answer in that situation. Then my favorite question in all my classes is, so what? In a class like this, we are going to cover a lot of different theories and a lot of different approaches that have marked the development of public administration as a field of study. The big question for us in a professional program like this is, well, so what? So we're learning these theories, so we're learning these approaches. How do we then apply them? And it's really the search for that nexus between theory and practice. In an MPA program, we are both a scholarly as well as a professional program. As a scholarly program, we have certain scholarly expectations from you in terms of your critical analysis, in terms of your writing skills, but we're also a professional program. It means we always have to keep an eye on that nexus between theory and practice. And that's why it's all about application. You can't appropriately apply information unless you are already able to critically analyze that information in order to do that application. So I just want to expose you to our mission as a program, what we're trying to accomplish together, as well as the values that really underlie that mission and really underlie everything that we do as an MPA program. So that kind of gives you a pretty good introduction to our PPA 500 course, as well as an introduction to the MPA program itself. We're very happy to have you as part of the MPA program. I certainly hope you enjoy your time, not just in this class, but also in the MPA program. And do remember, you have people here to help you along the way. And so anytime you have questions, it's always better to ask the question than to have a mistake later on. So if you have any questions about the course or about the program, you can always ask me. Any questions about the program, ask me, Dr. Matthews, Dr. Butts, and we're here to help you successfully navigate your way through the MPA program. So all that about 5:30. So I think that's pretty concise and pretty well done. Any questions about any of the information we've covered at all this evening? Oh, yeah, one thing I was going to do before I let you go, if I'm still logged in, is to take you to the beach board site. So let me just share my screen. That'll probably be easier to do it that way. I'll make this really quick. I don't want to keep you here too long, but let me take you to our sites. Okay, here we go. I think most of you probably have already looked at the site, our beach board site, but if you haven't, let me first scroll down and I'll put it in student view. So do this. Okay, all right, now we are in student view. What I like to do with most of my beach board sites is I like to put most of the information in the content area. So if you go into the content area, if you haven't been there yet, you'll see that you got everything that you need here in content to successfully get started with the course. I've got the syllabus there. You can see there's your syllabus. Important program documents, that's where I've got the advancement forms. So the advancement form for the general program, as well as if someone's in urban affairs or public works. The initial skills self-assessment assignment is there as well. I have links here for the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, Federalist Papers. So again, for next week, I would like for you to take a look at the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and Federalist Papers 10, 39, and 51. I also then pulled out 10, 59, and 39 and 51 here with separate actual files. So you can go straight there if you want to read each of those three. Budget documents, we'll use those as we get later on the semester. Then for each week, I have the PowerPoint slides that we're going to be using and covering for each one of those weeks. So you can just do that by week. The link to get into our sessions, weekly sessions, is there. I'm sure you already have that because you are here tonight. And then whenever I post the recording, it will go into this section here. Again, I'll have the recording all posted and ready to go by tomorrow morning. Usually what I will do is I usually upload it to YouTube, my YouTube channel, and then that will create the subtitles for me. And then I'll go ahead and post a link by tomorrow morning so you can go back and watch the recordings. So all that information is available for you there in the content area of the site. As I said, for your assignments you're turning in, you'll turn them in through the assigned Dropbox. And so I have a Dropbox for the draft advancement form, initial skills self-assessment form, your midterm assessment, as well as your final assessment. The midterm assessment and the final assessment I make available to you at least 2 weeks before they are due. For your discussions, here are your discussion fora, if you will. I have a class cafe, so if there are any general questions or anything where you want to communicate with your colleagues or set up group study groups or whatever you want to do, you can do that in that class cafe. Here's where you will post your introduction, again ungraded, and then each of your beach board essays will then be submitted in the appropriate link. So all those go in here in the discussion board. And I think that is pretty much it. That is the website. I just wanted, if you hadn't used Beachboard before or hadn't been to the site, I just kind of want to give you a little quick tour, and that's your little quick tour of what PPA 500 looks like. So there you go. Any questions about the Beachboard site or how you obtain any of those documents you're going to be using throughout the course? All good? Okay, well, thanks for bearing with me on that. I just wanted to show that to you really quick. Again, for next week, if you could read the articles, Constitution, Federalist Papers number 10, 39, and 51, and that will be our topic for discussion next week. I will give a short presentation to kind of get us up and running, and then we will go through the articles very quickly, spend most of our time going through the Constitution, and again, we'll go through all 7 articles, all 27 amendments, because I think you need to do that at least one time in your time in the MPA program. And then we'll have a discussion of those 3 Federalist Papers. Okay? All right, any questions between now and then, feel free to shoot me an email. Otherwise, I will see you back here next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So thanks a lot. Nice meeting everyone. I look forward to working with you.